Hello and welcome to part 5 of 10.2. In this video, we're going to be taking the general form of a hyperbola equation and we're going to be finding the standard form of the equation for a hyperbola. And then, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So, let's do it. So what we're going to do is just like with circles and ellipses, we're going to be completing the square twice. So this is actually going to be very, very similar to the way we did it with ellipses. So what we're doing here, first we're going to do the setup, right? We want to rearrange the question so that we have our x's together, our y's together, and the numbers on the other side of the equation. There should be a y here. And the numbers on the other side of the equation. So that's the first thing. And then remember, like we did in ellipses, we're going to have to factor out the first term on the x terms and the y terms. So whatever the leading coefficient of the x terms is, we're going to factor that out. And whatever the leading coefficients of the y terms is, we're going to factor that out. Notice that the y term is negative. That's important. So for ellipses, they were both positive. For hyperbolas, one is going to be positive and one is going to be negative, right? Because when we end, we want to have that negative in the middle. So in this case, the y term is going to end up being being the negative term. So this is the order that it's going to stay in. But it could happen that you end up with a negative over here, and so you divide by a negative and your positive and negative switch. So I wouldn't worry about putting it in the correct order in terms of whether the x is in front or the y is in front until the very end. When you get to the end and you have everything set up and you can see which is the negative term and which is the positive term. So you would leave that sort of reordering until the very end. So yeah. So let's go ahead and do the factoring. So I'm going to factor out a 9 on the first two terms. So I have 9x squared minus 4x. Leave some space. Minus 4. And remember, so we are factoring out a negative number, so we're going to have to change the sign. So we're going to have plus 10y, and I really ran out of room, equals 388. And I ran out of room for my leaving space over here as well. So I'm just going to have to like shove it in here somewhere. So sorry about that. So I'm going to change color so I can do that in a different color. Okay. So then in my next step, I'm going to have my perfect squares. So I'm going to have 9 times x minus, I have to divide this by 2. So that's x minus 2 squared. And then minus 4 y plus 5, right? 10 divided by 2. So y plus 5 squared equals something. Okay. So now I have a 2 here, so I have to add 4. But remember, what I'm really adding is 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36, so I'm really adding 36. So I'm going to add 36 over here to the other side, right? And then on this side, I have 5. 5 squared is 25, so I had to add 25 in here. But now what I'm really adding is 25 times negative 4. So I'm really subtracting 100 on this side. So pay attention to your signs, right? I'm really subtracting 100 because I'm multiplying by a negative here. So if I'm subtracting 100 on this side of the equation, I need to subtract 100 on this side of the equation. Okay? So let me pull out a calculator because I don't trust my mental math on this. The moment. So I have 388 plus 36 minus 100. So I have 288 plus 36, which is 324. So on this side of the equation, I have 324. Yeah. So the last step is to divide everything by what's on this side of the equation, because again, we want it to always be 1. So we're going to divide everything by 324. So just divide everything by 324. So let's see what 324 divided by 9. So remember, the very last step is to simplify. So I have 324 divided by 9 is 36. So I have x minus 2 squared over 36 minus, so now I know the order here. I know that my y is going to be my negative term because I'm dividing by a positive, and this is where my negative is. So I'm going to, I know that that's going to be negative. So 324 divided by 4 is 81. So I have y plus 5 squared over 81 equals 1. So if this had been negative, right, if I'd ended up with a negative right here and a plus right here, then I would have a final step of switching the order of these two, but that would be it, right? So if you end up with a negative here and a positive here, you just switch them, and then your y term is first, and that's fine. So that's all that this is. Basically, it's exactly the same as when we did it for ellipses, except that we now have a negative to deal with. That's literally the only difference from when we did it with ellipses. Hope that helps, and I will see you guys in the next video.